good morning. I hope that everybody's well and that you've had a good week. I say it all the time, but these weeks, they go round so quickly. This morning, I was up really early. I took the dogs out for a really lovely long walk along the cliffs, and we didn't see a soul. We had the whole coast path to ourselves, and it was so beautiful. It had rained a lot last night, but this morning we woke to a really beautiful day. In fact, I've had to drop the blinds in this room because the sunlight was flooding in and was reflecting on all the samplers. When I walk with my dogs, I get so much joy out of seeing their joy, and just, I don't know, there's something about the sea and the sky and the craggy cliffs of Cornwall that really inspire me. It feeds my soul. And I've come home today full of ideas for a project, but that'll have to wait till this afternoon. Sue and Mark are coming around shortly, and the four of us are going out for Sunday lunch. Okay, so this week, well, I had a finish. I did eventually finish Mrs. Campbell. And I don't normally show my finishes until we release them, but I know there's so many people anxious to get Mrs. Campbell that I thought I would share her finished. Here she is. I am so thrilled with this sampler. Mrs. Campbell Oban, keep your work clean and pay attention to it. And that was stitched in 1805. That is such a long time ago. My husband went to Oban. He took his boat up to Scotland and he visited Oban, and he sent me some photographs, and it's such a pretty place, and the houses are all painted in these beautiful colours, and it actually sort of reminded me of Mrs. Campbell's sampler. Oban is a place of colour, and so is Mrs. Campbell's sampler. There are 27 colours in this sampler. I have already started to put the booklet together. I've got to go to my framers and get the backing board, and then get her laced and stretched and photographed. So I'm hoping maybe by the end of February that she will be available. We shall see. We'll see how things go, but I know that you're all very anxious. This week we had a release of a sampler, and it was Elizabeth Wood, and here is the original Elizabeth Wood. Now, this sampler was stitched in Boulogne-sur-Mer in France, and Elizabeth promised to be, so it's Elizabeth Wood will be always a good and obedient little girl. I think that's so sweet. Now, whether she was a good little girl that made that promise sort of, it was heartfelt, is one thing, but it also occurred to me that when I was reproducing and stitching her, it might have been she was made to stitch her sampler as penance, like writing lines, I promise to be a good little girl. I think probably that she was a good little girl stitching her sampler. There are thread carries, but it's not dreadfully bad on the back. It's darling. Here is the model that I stitched, and I really enjoyed reproducing and stitching her. Isn't she a darling? I just cannot resist a red sampler, and that little promise in that sampler, it touched me in my heart, and I knew when I saw her that I really, really wanted to have her in my home on my sampler wall. She is stitched entirely over 2 threads, except for the one letter L in the word will, where she ran out of space and she just had to squeeze some stitches in. But if you wanted to stitch this sampler on Ada, all you would have to do is move the word will by 1 thread over, and you can stitch that last W in cross stitch over 2. There will be space. So although as Elizabeth stitched it, 3 stitches stop you stitching on Ada, if you just move that word will, you can stitch it on Ada as well. It's not a big sampler, it's 144 by 133 stitches, and when you stitch this sampler it really flows. It's a very therapeutic sampler to stitch. I really, really enjoyed it. It's a quick stitch, and she will look absolutely gorgeous on your sampler wall and your red sampler wall if you have one. But you don't have to stitch this sampler in red. You can stitch it in whatever colour you want. For all we know, it might just have been red thread that Elizabeth had. And if she'd had a basket of thread, her eyes may have gone to a blue or a green. We just don't know, but you stitch this sampler as you would like. Her booklet is available on the Hands Across the Sea Samplers website as a printed booklet and as an instant PDF download, and she is available from needlework stores around the world as a booklet. We hope you enjoy her. There's not a lot else I can add. You know, she's just a sweetheart. Talking about stitching your sampler as you want. In the week, I asked a question about do you personalise your samplers? One of the ladies had finished the rose and the giant pear, and she removed the beetle and she put her initials, and I thought that looked absolutely wonderful. It was really interesting to see people's comments about whether they personalise their samplers or not. And one lady said that, words to the effect that at her age, she didn't think that she could put her name and age on the sampler. Well, I want to show you something. This is Rachel Shard, and I showed this being stitched. I haven't released it yet because I haven't written the booklet, but what I want you to see is that Rachel, and although she hasn't put Rachel, I know that Sheard or Shard, I haven't quite worked out how to say her name, but anyway, I know she's Rachel. Rachel put on this sampler that she was 82 when she stitched it in 1900. Don't worry about your age. You don't have to be a little girl to stitch a sampler, and you can put your name and your age on the sampler, and it will mean something to your family. This week we saw a start, or in fact we've seen a couple of starts on Maria. I do love this sampler so much. I should have been in London the beginning of this week to fly out to Arizona, and I was going to deliver the model to the model stitcher of Maria, but that had to be postponed because London's a little bit of a dangerous place to go at the moment. So I've got Maria for another 4 weeks, and I will be very sad to see her go. In the week, we saw a really lovely finish of Martha Guthrie. Here's my Martha. And Laurie finished her Martha. I love this little sampler, and it's so nice that with Martha that we have a lot of background information about her and the school that she stitched her sampler in. So have a look at her on our website. This week I collected Marion Horsburgh from the Framers. If you remember, Marion was the second prize in our birthday giveaway draw, and the original frame for Marion had got damaged, and I didn't want to send it to Ronnie, who won the sampler, that way, so I had her reframed, and I collected Marion from the Framers on yesterday, Saturday morning, and this is now shipping over to Ronnie. Here's the original, so not the original, here's my model of Marion. Again, it is just so lovely to hang the two side by side. The lady who won the other sampler, which was Alice Williams, that was Carrie, she has stitched the sampler, and the original and the reproduction will hang together, and I'm sure that Ronnie will do the same. She will stitch Marion, if she hasn't already done so, and hang the two together. Okay, so what else has been happening this week? Well, I suppose the biggest thing of the week, besides Elizabeth being released, was the announcement of the workshop for Margaret Anderson at Hobby House Needleworks in October. This is a wonderful Scottish sampler. There is so much going on in this sampler, and in the workshop we're going to be looking at all the stitches and a little bit about the history of Scottish samplers, and it's going to be a fabulous time. I would like to thank everybody who has signed up for the workshop. Kathy and David told me that when the workshop went live at 12 o'clock on, was it I think it was Thursday, I don't know, whichever day it was, it sold out instantaneously, and I'm so touched that so many people would like to come and spend the day with me exploring Margaret's sampler. For all those who are going to attend, I promise I'm going to work my hardest to make that a very, very special occasion for you, and I am bursting with excitement about spending that time with you all. So thank you very, very much. Next weekend, we're going to have a giveaway. So make sure you come along and watch the video next weekend, because I have 2 prizes to give away and you might be a winner. So make sure you watch. I'm just trying to think about what else is coming up in the week ahead. I had a request from a needleworker to talk about how I store my silk. Well, I had a lot of samplers to show this week, so I really didn't have room to put everything out, but I hope that in the week I can film another video to include with next weekend's video when I talk about how I store my silk. So that will be in next weekend's video as well. What else have I got to talk about? Gosh, I put things out so that I remember them. Oh gosh, how could I miss this? I treated myself. I came across these on the internet and I could not resist them. They're shaker boxes, and this is really, really nicely made. And for UK needleworkers, this is actually made in the UK by Andrew Spilsbury. So it's Andrew Spilsbury's shaker boxes. There's his card. so that you can freeze the video and write that information down. He's actually built in, he's in Devon, which is the next county to Cornwall, and it was really lovely to be able to support a local craftsman. Beautifully made. And I also treated myself to this little box because I just loved the top on this box. And that will come in useful for storing something. You can never have too many boxes when you are a needleworker. On Thursday, we have a really, really special release. So make sure you look out on our social media for Thursday. We are so excited about this sampler. Okay, I'm going to have to wrap this up because we're going out for lunch. Do you know, it's a job sometimes to fit everything into the day. I'll be glad when we have the lighter evenings so the day becomes longer. In the summer, I walk the dogs in the evening most days. And of course, in the winter, when it's dark, you haven't got that time. So that's a chunk of time that has to come out of the day. I think that's why my days, I can't fit so much in at the moment. Anyway, I'll see you next week. Stay safe, stay well. Bye-bye.